Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm on half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and thank you as ever for joining me for a conversation, a discussion, a procrastination. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Listen, we haven't done a lot of content in a while. Like, we've done the Monday night shows, and obviously next Monday there'll be a show, a live show, etc. But the kind of weekly update shows, we haven't done a few in a hot minute. We've released some shorts, for people who like the kind of 30-second, 45-second short form content. Santoki and I've got some stuff planned. We're definitely recording something next Tuesday, so look out for that. But it's still kind of IPL season, Obviously, World Cup starts in just under a month, so obviously there'll be a lot of content then. England tour, we've got lots of news about stuff coming up to do with that, so there'll be content then. But we're still in like T20 down bad IPL season, so the content just isn't as frequent. And as well, obviously, not to make excuses, but Santoki and I are in quite senior jobs, so sometimes we're just on a down one, Anyways. Big up, David, as some of you can see. New mic in town. Should I adjust this? Hold on, let me adjust this. Can you see the mic properly? What does that? Oh, we'll just have to do this. New mic in town. Hopefully it's clean. Hopefully it's clear. Any of you who are tech people who are like, nah, Mash, move the mic here or do this or do that. Well, I'll have to go based on what you lot say. But yeah, this video, let's get into it. This video, I wanted to just chat briefly on the West Indies women's recent tour of Pakistan. People said to me, Mash, you haven't done a video on it. You should. And you're right, I should. I just haven't had time to sit down properly and cover it with a free moment in my calendar, but sometimes in my diary even. But sometimes you just have to make time. Obviously, it was a very successful tour. The West Indies women beat Pakistan women 3-0 in the ODIs and then 4-1 in the T20 series. Needless to remind people, there is a women's T20 World Cup later on this year in October. So we're in May now, June, July, August, September. So it's only 5 months away from the T20 World Cup. So this tour or this series was quite significant in terms of preparation. For those who don't remember, at the last T20 World Cup, West Indies did not make it out of their group. They came third in their group, which included England, India, Pakistan, and Ireland. And the West Indies beat Pakistan and Ireland in the last World Cup and lost to England and India. In the grand scheme of things, quite comprehensively so. And I mean, there's an argument to say that they only just sneaked past Ireland and only just defeated Pakistan. So, and that was only a year ago, right? So there's been quite a lot of work to undertake for this West Indies women's team in trying to revamp themselves, find a new identity, try to, I don't want to say rise up the rankings, but try to at least increase the gap between themselves and the quote-unquote weaker full member sides, of which West Indies are one, but weaker full member sides in the women's game. Now, obviously, again, for those who don't know, in July last year, Shane Deitz, I always say, I don't know if I say the surname right, let's say Deitz. Shane Deitz was announced as the new West Indies women's head coach. His first assignment was a tour of Australia last year, in which Hayley Matthews and Stefani Taylor put on that heroic partnership that led to the West Indies women chasing down 212 and winning one of the T20 games in Australia against the world champions. Obviously, they ended up losing that series 2-1, but they were far more competitive than people expected them to be. The ODI series was far more comprehensive. Australia essentially swatted them to one side. But since that tour of Australia at the back end of 2023, the Pakistan tour was the first engagement that the West Indies women have really had since then. Yes, we've played some domestic T20 Blaze, we've played some domestic 50 over competitions, of which Jamaica won both. But this was the first real engagement for Shane Deitz and this new brand of cricket that the West Indies women's team are trying to play. It was the first real engagement for Deitz in terms of against a side that the West Indies would have been expecting. Should we say beat? They would have been expecting to beat, but it's not just about. Sometimes it's not about defeating a side; it's about the nature of the defeat. And fundamentally, coming away from a tour of Pakistan where they played 8 games, 3 in the ODIs, 5 in the T20s, and they won 7 of them, it's hard to turn round and immediately have a churlish viewpoint towards the West Indies women's team and say, oh, yeah, but you should have been expected to win that. And we can't really use Pakistan women away as a metric. No, I think we can. If you go, like I say, if you go back to that 2023 World Cup, T20 World Cup, we only just beat Pakistan women in that 2023 World Cup. So this notion that we're like here and Pakistan women are there, no, I'm not convinced. I think we're kind of on that same playing field. So it's about how comprehensive could we be in if we were going to beat the Pakistan women's team, how comprehensive could we be in defeating them? Now, just looking at the games we played against them, so the ODIs, the first one, West Indies women won by 113 runs, comprehensive. Second one, they won by 2 wickets off the final ball. Third ODI, they won by 88 runs. So 2 of the 3 ODIs were comprehensive victories. In the T20s, the first one, they won by 1 run, a game that Pakistan women should have found a way to win. Second one, West Indies women won by 7 wickets with 10 balls left, comprehensive. Third one, they won by 2 runs. Again, a game that Pakistan women probably will look around and go, how do we not win that? Fourth one, Pakistan women won comprehensively by 8 wickets. And then the final one, West Indies women won comprehensively by 8 wickets with 10 balls left. So in the 5 T20s, I'd say they won 2 comprehensively of the 4 that they won. So across the piece of the 7 games that the West Indies women's team won, 4 of them were comprehensive victories. So I think the first thing people have to ask themselves really and truly is that a good return? Is that a good metric by which to say the team is improving? They won 4 out of 7 games against Pakistan women comprehensively. Of the 7 victories they got, 4 comprehensive. But of course, for some that will be good enough, for some it won't. Then I said, you know what, let me just try and pick 5 key talking points. And for those of you that like to get in the comments, and for those of you that pay any level of kind of keen interest in West Indies women's team, and keen interest could range from those who watch all of the games they play to those of you who only really pay attention when it's World Cup time and they're on the major world stage. I'm probably, if I'm being completely honest, somewhere in between. I think the games that they had against Pakistan, a lot of them were scheduled at times when I was just at work, so I couldn't just watch them. I had to watch a lot of them. I had to watch a lot of the games back on highlights rather than live themselves. But anyways, these are the 5 key points I kind of picked up that I think that people should want to discuss, and get at me in the comments below as ever. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, all of that. Now, point 1 is the most obvious point. Is the West Indies women's team improving, or is Hayley Matthews just the GOAT? I want everyone to kind of let that one marinate and let that one swill around your heads. Let me say that one again. Is the West Indies team women's team improving, or is Hayley Matthews just the GOAT? In the ODIs, Hayley Matthews scored 325 runs in the 3 matches, strike rate of 90, average of 163, 200s. In the T20s, Hayley Matthews scored 205 runs across the 5 matches, average over 40, 350s, a strike rate of 127. Hayley Matthews walks into any women's team in the world game right now. her form and her glow up that she has experienced in the last year of professional cricket. For those who don't remember, we had Hayley Matthews on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast about 6 months ago. So go back and watch that episode. I'll put a link to it in the description below. The glow up that Hayley has had in the last year has been simply phenomenal. She walks into all women's teams in the world, even the champion Australia side. She walks into that side. Here's one to wind people up. Does Hayley Matthews walk into our men's senior side? I'm being serious. Would you put Hayley Matthews? I'm smiling, but I'm actually being serious. Would you put Hayley Matthews in the men's senior side? Get at me in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Couple uncles right now raging, just typing on the laptop like that. Couple uncles raging right now. They just smashed the dominoes on the table, raging at that statement. Get at me in the comments below. So, like I say, have the West Indies women's team improved? Are we playing a more expansive, different brand of cricket, a more winning form of cricket, or are we just fortunate that we're living through the Hayley Matthews GOAT era? Get them in the comments below. Second point, Stefani Taylor. Stefani was good in the, well, was she good? She was, I don't know if good's too strong. Stefani Taylor, what is the role of Stefani Taylor right now? In the context of the West Indies women's team, that's what I want people to answer. Stefani is still only 32 years old. She still has a significant role to play. She's battled back injuries over or a series of injuries really over the last year and a half, 2 years, etc. But she still has a significant role to play in West Indies cricket, West Indies women's cricket, I would say, and West Indies cricket as a whole. In the ODI series in particular, she only played one match in the T20s. But in the ODIs, she scored 122 runs, our third top run scorer. Obviously, Hayley scored 300 plus. But Stefani was the only other batter in the West Indies team that was able to get a strike rate over 70. Now, obviously, and I pick my words here closely, I'm not saying Stefani is on a decline. Some of you will say she is. I'm not saying she's on a decline, but she's no longer at the peak of her powers when she was probably our best women's player, right? But what role does Stefani have to play now? She's still obviously, she's obviously a certain pick. She's probably, arguably, our second best batter after Hayley Matthews. But I guess the question that I'm really asking is, should we expect more from Stefani? Given her level of experience, and the fact that she was once a real shining star of our game, should we expect more of a supporting role from her to take the pressure off Hayley, or is Stefani just where she's at right now? Get me in the comments below. Third, again, this is based off what we saw in the Pakistan series, but is our bowling in good shape? And I think I'm trying to say that it is. I think that I don't know about the pace bowling. I think Shamila Cannell offers something. I'm not trying to say she doesn't offer anything. I think she offers something for sure. Chanel Henry offers something. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that our strength with the bowling is our spinners. And I think our spinners are quite effective. Afi Fletcher has come back, obviously, after maternity, and she's still effective. Karishma Ramarak is effective. Hayley herself is effective. So that's 3 spinners up top. Afi is a leg break bowler. Karishma's a right arm off break. Hayley herself with the right arm off break. We have even Stefani can bowl, to be fair. We have a series of slow bowlers, call them spin if you want, who are quite effective as attacking strike bowlers, right? Maybe the quibble would be, how effective are they against the top nations? So Australia, India, and England. How effective are they in that context? But within our playing field and within our lane that we're in right now, arguably, our women's slow bowlers can be seen as effective. and we have a cadre of slow bowlers who can make inroads, right? But are our seamers where we want them to be? That's a question to answer. Point 4, Shamaine Campbell. I asked a question earlier on. What is the role? Is Stefani Taylor playing the role we want her to play, or should we expect more from her? Wherever people stand on that particular question, the one person who does seem to be playing a supporting role, or as close to a supporting role as possible, in terms of supporting Hayley Matthews, is Shamaine Campbell. And I think her game has improved. Some people take exception to this, but I think Shamaine Campbell's game has improved immeasurably. In the ODI series, let me just bring up what she did again. Shamaine was our second top run scorer, 135 runs, obviously nearly 200 runs behind Hayley. 150, top score 52, average of 45. Strike rate wasn't anything to write home about, but again, in the context of most of our batters, I mean, she was the third best bat in terms of strike rate. Shamaine, again, I'm wary that some people might take kind of issue with some of the stuff I say here. Shamaine, to me, is a gritty batter. She's gonna stick it out. She's going to fight. Does she have the array of strokes and free flowing ability to score quickly and score big? Not convinced. Does she have the ability to grit it out and ensure that people can bat around her? Increasingly, it's looking like that is the case. And I guess then the follow-on kind of point from that then is, as things are right now, is that as good as it can get? We're obviously very far away from having another Hayley Matthews S player in the region. I'm not even sure if we've got a half a Hayley Matthews in the region. So we've got to work with the little bits and pieces that we do have. We know that Stefani can do bits and pieces every now and again. And Shamaine Campbell has shown, both in that ODI series where she was the second top run scorer, and even in the T20 series across the 5 games, Shamaine was our second top run scorer. 113 runs at an average of 28. She didn't get a 50. She had 1 not out. But again, she was our second top run scorer in the context of Hayley doing everything, right? Strike rate was 88 in the T20s, if I didn't say T20s. So we want somebody, ideally, in an ideal world, you'd want Shamaine Campbell to be far more expansive, be able to go a quicker lick. But again, like I say, in the era that we are in, beggars can't be choosers. Should we be thankful that we've got someone who's willing to grit it out at the crease, and we just have to take what we can get at this particular moment in time? And then finally, point 5, the next generation. And this is something I do have an issue with. And Shane Deitz this is probably his biggest challenge. I can't remember which listener to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast made a similar point to this a few months back, or maybe 6 months back, whatever it might have been. But at what point, or how and when, do we start to bleed in some promising youngsters? The follow-up point then is, do we have enough promising youngsters? But at what point do we look at? So I'm going to read you. Where's our squad? Right, this was the squad that went to, don't even know if I've got up on the screen anymore. I might not have it, people. This was the squads that went to Pakistan, right? Just listen out to the ages. Hayley Matthews, obviously, the GOAT. Shamaine Campbell, 31. Chadeen Nation, 37. Chanel Henry, 28. Rashad Williams, 27. Stefani Taylor, 32. Aaliyah Lane, 29. Shamila Connell, 31. Afi Fletcher, 37. Karishma, 29. Ramarak. We've got a lot of players, that just those players that I just read out, we've got a lot of players who've been around for a long time. And again, I'm wary, and I will say, beggars cannot be choosers. It's not like these players who have been picked are just being picked for the sake of being picked. We had a T20 Blaze. We had a West Indies 50 over championship in March, March this year, prior to the start of this Pakistan tour, a lot of the players who were picked, if not the large majority of them, were picked off the back of promising domestic performances. So I guess the question I raise is, where is the line between picking the players who consistently perform at the domestic level? So someone like a Chadine Nation, who was very good for Jamaica across the different domestic competitions. She's 37 years old, but she was a standout in the domestic competitions. Therefore, do you have to pick the players who stand out? Do you have to pick the players who perform irrespective of age? But then where is the line between trying to find that next generation of promising youngsters who may have, yes, more developmental strands to kind of tick off and go through, but whose upside, if we develop them properly, may be better than the players we stuck with for what, at least 5 years, if not longer, right? So in that squad, I looked at, well, who are the youngsters we took to Pakistan? Zaida James, I think they've gone all in on Zaida James. I don't mind Zaida. I think she played. Let me just look. She played 3 of the ODIs. She played all of the ODIs, I should say. And in the T20s, just remind myself how many of the T20s she played. I cannot remember, people. Let me just remind myself. Zaida played. Bear with me, people. She played all of the ODIs, and in the T20s, Zaida played 3 of the T20s. So actually, I may even have got that the wrong way around. But anyways, the point is Zaida played some games. I think the issue that they've got with Zaida, and I've long said this, is that I still don't think they've figured out what Zaida's strength is. At the under-19 level, she was a genuine all-rounder. Could score runs against, obviously, under-19 level players and could take wickets. At the senior level, she seems to be, at this moment in time, and this is harsh, but she seems to be a bits and pieces cricketer, in so much as they don't seem to either trust her to bowl her full allocation, and she's batting too low down sometimes to make enough of an impact. So I think they're still trying to work out, and maybe this is part of the developmental process for her, but I think they're still trying to work out what is the best role for someone like Zaida James. But they clearly are investing in her. Kishana Joseph, they're investing in. She's only 23. Kate Wilmot was called up onto the tour. But for those of you who are keen students of the West Indies domestic game, women's game, you may say, so where's somebody like Ashmini Munasar or Chanel Saw, and all of those are just 2 names I'll immediately call. And it goes back to that point I make. At what point do you pick repeated domestic performers who may be older versus looking towards the next generation and trying to build from the quote unquote grassroots up? Now, again, reminder to people, there is a women's academy this year. It's of cohort of players in the West Indies Women's Academy. So we are it's not like we're jettisoning young players. There is an academy for the women's and girls. So there is development going on in that regard. One has had another point there. The Women's Academy. I can't remember now. So there, yeah, like I say, there is a women's academy focusing on developing the youngsters, so they aren't being forgotten about within the region. I guess the kind of wrapping this up, I guess my worry, and always has been kind of my worry around women's cricket in the region, is, so what do we do now? We've played this Pakistan tour. Now what? We have a World Cup due to start in 5 months. Now what? What's next? Someone said to me that we're going to be playing Sri Lanka, but I've seen no dates announced. I haven't seen when it's taking place, who's at home, whatever. The World Cup is in Bangladesh, so if it was Sri Lanka away, it would make sense. But I've not seen anything confirming that. Shane Deitz surely would want some more cricket, and this is still the kind of catch-22 in the women's game in the region. We just don't play enough cricket. The players aren't playing enough to be able to develop enough, and Hayley's the only one who's getting overseas opportunities. I know there's a fair break competition. A couple people last year got some deals in that, but Hayley's the only one really getting experience elsewhere to develop her game. I just remembered what I wanted to say earlier on. We must also laud and celebrate the fact that Cricket West Indies have announced, of course, the offering of professional women's contracts across the different franchises, etc., to try and help bolster the professional standards in the women's game, and to make sure that the initial cohort of players that get these professional contracts are actually being paid to be professional cricketers. It's a start, but there's a long way to go. I'll wrap it now, and I think there's a lot of points there that I've kind of said. Some of them arguably a bit muddled, but there's a lot of points that I've kind of said. Let me see what you lot say. For those of you who study women's cricket in our region, and when I say what you lot say, don't just say some random stuff. Like, make it logical. What's the answers here? I've always said women's cricket in our region that, okay, we've got a new men's head coach now, the Aussie guy, Shane Deitz. We just have to buckle in. We have to buckle in and accept there is no, like, now they're better. We don't have the cohort to just challenge Australia, England, and India on a regular basis. So we just have to buckle in and say we have to take a long-term developmental process to this, which is why I just draw a few queries about the age of some of the players that we're still picking, and if that is or isn't the best way forward. I don't know, because you still have to win in the here and the now, right? So yeah, get at me in the comments below. What do you think? Was that tour of Pakistan a good tour? It was successful, but was it a good tour? Did you see enough positives to say, yeah, we're moving forward? Or do you just think it was just a Hayley Matthews GOAT performance, which masks quite a lot of other weaknesses? I'm not necessarily buying that, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say. Listen, you can tell my voice is going. It's been a long week. My name is Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, get us in the comments below. Like the video, share, subscribe, road to 9K, all of that. And if you want to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you can go to www.patreon.com, so at the bottom, /Carib Cricket. Any little bit helps, keeps us on the road, and so on and so forth. Thank you for listening. Look out for some more content coming on the YouTube channel, on the audio platforms. It's always coming. Got things planned. Stay locked in. See you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.